Hey everyone, today we're going to make a signet ring out of this big block of carbon fiber, and then we're going to inlay a bar of gold into the top. Let's get started. So the first step is we're going to take this over to the drill press and we're going to use a diamond hole saw and we're going to cut out the inside ring size. We're going to cut it a little small so we can size it out to the exact size, but this just helps speed the process along. So I'm using a little water. It helps the diamond hole saw not to stick. It also helps the carbon fiber not overheat, and it makes our diamond hole saw last a lot longer as well. So there's a lot of benefits to using water, especially when cutting composites. Now that we have that cut out, we're gonna head over to the lapidary saw and we're gonna cut that long piece off because it makes no sense to have a signet ring that's like 3 inches tall above your hand. All right, so we got that cut and now we're back to the bench and we're gonna start working with the Dremel and we're gonna size this thing out first. It's just gonna save us a lot of time in the long run. So I wanna get the size on the inside of the ring so it fits on your finger nicely before we do anything else. Got that done. I'm also gonna add a little bit of comfort fit just so I can see where the edges of this ring are gonna go because I don't wanna sand too far down the line into the inside of the ring. All right, so we're gonna move over to the belt sander, and this is just a lot of sanding and shaping, and I gotta be really careful not to go too far, go nice and smooth. I can't get it too hot because the carbon fiber, if it gets too hot, the epoxy will delaminate and it causes other problems and voids and things. So it's just important to take my time and to go nice and slow, working the ring side by side by side and kind of rotating it around as I'm going. So I'm constantly moving to a new spot. And as you can see, it's slowly but surely taking a rounding shape. Again, this just takes a little bit of time and finesse. I just don't want to go too deep too quickly. I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job and that I'm getting the shape that I'm wanting out of this. Cool, I kind of have a general shape now, so now I'm going to actually start doing some more finessing on the shaping. I don't want the signet ring to be a big block on top. I want it to kind of come in an angle inwards towards your finger so that it looks really cool and it's also very functional and easy to wear. So I'm slowly but surely kind of putting a little bit of a taper up at the top. All right, cool. So what I'm doing up here is I'm gonna put a little tape on the top of the signet. We're gonna mill some grooves into this. And so I'm just kind of laying the tape on there. I'm cutting off the edges so I can see the edges. And then we're gonna measure and then draw stripes on here so we know where to cut. And I just wanna make sure that when I'm cutting these stripes that they're symmetrical, they're the perfect width, everything is dialed in perfectly. And so when I'm measuring, I'm using these calipers and it's kind of cool. I was at first using a marker and the marker, you know, it always sits off a little bit from the edge. And so we used a razor blade to actually cut a stripe out of the tape to tell us where to cut on the ring. Because again, we're using hand tools on all this stuff. None of this is CNC, it's all done by hand. So making sure everything is perfectly done is absolutely essential. We don't have any computers to help us here. And you can see I'm peeling off the little cut marks that we made. And those are gonna be our stripes that we're gonna mill into the signet. You can see the beautiful waves of the carbon fiber coming through. I really, really like how carbon fiber looks. All right, we're gonna pop this puppy out and move over to an actual clamp that's gonna hold this secure in place. And this is our mill. This is where we're gonna mill those stripes out. So what I have here is a really fine end mill made for carbon fiber or composites. And this is a carbide bit and it is only 2 millimeters, it's tiny. And we're just gonna slowly mill right on through these stripes and cutting into the carbon fiber. And we got this sped up, but it's actually a really slow cutting process. We just want to take our time to do this right. First pass is done. You can see how cool that's looking. And so we're going to flip it around and do the other side and mill right on through. We don't have to go super deep, so we're just doing this with one pass and then a finished pass on the way back, nice and smooth. All right, so a test fit. We have our gold rod or a gold bar right here, and we just did a little test fit, and you can see it fit perfectly in there. We're gonna eventually epoxy that down into the carbon fiber, because carbon fiber and gold have different consistencies. So when heat and cold from just wearing the ring or having it sit in the sun or whatever the case is, it causes carbon fiber and gold to expand in different ways. So we can't really press fit it in there too well. We have to epoxy it in to make sure that it stays there forever. I measured the length and I did this the old fashioned way where you just put it into the groove and mark it with a pen. No need to measure anything. I know that it's gonna be a little too long on purpose and we're gonna shape that later. But what I'm using is a jewelry file to cutting off little pieces of the bar to inlay into the signet. So quick hand cleanup and a hand sand on the bottom so that we rough the gold so the epoxy will have something to grab onto and keep that gold in there forever. So what I have here is part A and B of epoxy, of Astrotech epoxy. We always want to use epoxy when we're bonding metals to composites. It's just going to be a way stronger bond than using CA glue or something of that nature. This will ensure that those pieces are bonded together forever. I keep saying bonded together forever because we have a lifetime warranty. So anything that we're designing here, we need to make sure is going to stand up to the test of time and durability. So it's important that we take the time to use the right materials and to do this right so that it'll last you a lifetime. All right, so now that we have those epoxied in, it's time to clean up the gold bars and then also continue back onto the signet ring, because as you can imagine, the shape is not an ideal shape to wear. It's super wide, super bulky, not what we're going for at all. So cleaning up the bars, got those done, and now we're gonna start with the shaping. We're gonna make this a lot more comfortable to wear. We want the top of the signet ring to be big and broad and bold, but the part where it's actually on your finger, we want that to be a lot more manageable, comfortable, and something that you can wear on a daily basis and not worry about. So what I'm doing here is knocking down some of the base. We put the bandsaw at an angle and we're just slowly milling that down until we have a nice comfortable band. The part that goes on the inside of your finger where your palm is, we want that to be nice and slim and super comfortable. All right, so after getting that done, now we're gonna start working back on the ring. We gotta knock down some edges. We're gonna add some rounding and chamfers. And so we're changing the angle of the bandsaw again, and we're gonna start hitting that with different angles, getting a chamfer and rounding both on the base and all the way around the ring. All right, so now that we have that done, it's time to go over to the bench again. We're gonna do some handwork. So I'm gonna use a little water and I'm going to hand sand and shape the rest of this ring on the bench. So I've got the ring sanded and shaped and everything. I'm really happy with how it's looking. It's time to start doing some of the cleanup work. And so since we did the bars, the gold bars, we raised those up and above. We've got to do some of this by hand. We got to get in there, take out some of the epoxy, clean up those edges, and also sand and polish that area up. This is a lot of hand work, and basically the rule of thumb is sand until it hurts and then continue to sand a little bit more, and that's how you know you've got it. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that side. We're gonna start working on the other side, making this a lot more comfortable to wear, cleaning up some of those chamfers so we have no hard angles. All right, so I took it up to a grit that I'm happy with. I don't necessarily want this to be a high gloss. I want it to be kind of a satin finish, but I want the gold to be a high gloss. So we're gonna take it over to the buffing wheel and we're gonna hit it with some polishing compound, and it's gonna give it a nice, brilliant shine to the top of the ring. The reason I want the rest of the ring to kind of be a little bit more raw is you can see the carbon fiber, you can see all the waves, the individual fibers themselves in the toes of the carbon, and you can see a lot more. The carbon fiber kind of bounces on the light as you rotate it, so it just looks really, really cool. It's something that a lot of people are not familiar with. These are available on patrickadairdesigns.com. Thanks for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments.